I just found my wife. I don't know what's going on. CPR. I need CPR. Just instructions.
Okay, she's not breathing or conscious?
Oh my God! There's a laceration in her chest. No.
Okay, sir, bear with me one moment.
No.
We're getting help there. Just stay on the line and need some more information, okay?
No. I don't know if there's blood. Oh, I need you here. I need you here immediately.
Sir, so she is bleeding and she's not conscious. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
All right, sir.
I'm curious about the fingernail scrapings. Was there signs of a struggle? Were there defense wounds on the victim? So a lot of value, a lot of evidentiary value coming out of this case.
You are hearing a portion of that 911 call. We have combed over it over and over and over, every single word, including the tone of his voice when it goes up to a falsetto. Curious.
He said 4 words to a 911 dispatcher, and those 4 words are the only thing anyone actually knows for certain about the death of Brooke Hanland. There's blood everywhere. That's it. That's the whole case, boiled down to a sentence a panicked husband said into a phone, while trying to keep his wife alive with chest compressions he'd never been trained to do. 2 months later, there is still no arrest, no suspect, no person of interest. Just a young mother dead on the 2nd floor of a house tucked so far into the woods that you'd need to already know it was there to find it. The visual anchor for this case is not a knife. It's not a crime scene photo. It's a clock with no hands sitting on a kitchen counter in an empty house. Because that's what this investigation has become. Time that keeps passing with nothing to mark it. No arrest. No answers. Just silence stretching out longer than anyone expected it to. Before we go deeper into what the evidence actually shows, make sure you're subscribed to Crime Nest Media. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the facts. On the day Brooke Hanland died, her husband Connor says he came home to find her upstairs, in the 2nd floor bedroom of their home outside Chester, New Jersey. He called 911. He said he didn't know what was happening. He said she wasn't breathing. The dispatcher walked him through CPR, 30 compressions, then more, count out loud, sir. Keep going. At one point, Connor tells the dispatcher he sees a laceration. Investigators would later determine that laceration was in fact a stab wound. Multiple stab wounds to the chest and body.
So the information we have at the present time is the husband stating that it's a laceration on the chest. Now, people call lacerations are caused by blunt force trauma, but people often confuse them with stab wounds or incised wounds, which is caused by sharp force trauma, which is what her cause of death was made. So if she has a laceration on her chest, it's probably a stab wound that he misinterpreted as a laceration from a knife being plunged into her chest at about heart level and going through her heart or her lungs, and then she bled out.
I'm curious if there were multiple stab wounds or one stab wound. Dr. Kendall Crowns, can you describe what a medical examiner would see if there were overlapping stab wounds that appear to be one stab wound? How does that happen?
So you can have in a stab wound situations where the individual stabs the person and then pulls the knife down, creating a bigger gaping wound. You can also have where they stab into the individual and then don't pull the knife all the way out and stab again, so you get 2 separate wound tracks from one knife wound. Then, of course, when you have clusters of stab wounds where they're stabbing over and over and over into the same kind of tight circle area, you get multiple stabs in a specific spot, and then all those wound tracks kind of go together in aggregate, basically ripping apart whatever is underneath them. And you see these a lot, and especially when someone's incredibly angry at the individual that they're stabbing. And it's a term that we call overkill, where they just continue to stab even though they've gone past the point of where that stab wound would have killed them, and they keep stabbing and stabbing and stabbing
Brooke
over
was
and
pronounced dead. Her husband was not. No arrest. Say that phrase enough times and it stops sounding like an absence of evidence and starts sounding like an accusation all on its own. Here is what the public record actually shows. There was no forced entry, No broken glass, no pry marks on the doors, no sign that a stranger fought their way into that house. No burglar alarm was triggered. Nothing was reported stolen. This was not a robbery gone
Investigative
wrong.
reporter Dave Mack, it was my understanding that there was no forced entry, no burglar alarm went off, 911 was called. I mean, 2 plus 2 still equals 4, doesn't it, Jackie? Yeah, okay,
Yes.
it does. Nothing changed overnight. He called 911. No burglar alarm was activated. Nothing was tripped to call investigators or police to the scene. So no burglar alarm went off. We understand there was no forced entry, and the autopsy is done. Nothing was stated about a sex attack. Also, from what we are learning, there was no struggle in the foyer or the entrance. Let's see the picture or the video of the home again, where you come in the front door. Nothing seemingly was amiss there. As you see, the glass is not busted. There's no pry marks on the door. We don't have fingerprint, dust, the dark fingerprint powder all over the door, the handle to find out who came in, because there was no forced entry. Dave Mack.
That's what we have right now. And see, when we first started covering this, Nancy, I was looking at the entry, because I thought if it was an attack from somebody she didn't know, then maybe she was fleeing upstairs because she was found upstairs in the master bedroom. But Nancy, when you get down to this, you've got blood just up in the master bedroom. We're not told of it being anywhere else. And as you mentioned, there's no sign of any kind of a scuffle happening in the entryway. So we're just up on the second floor of a house that's not like sitting side by side with other homes. You had to know where it is. And again, nothing stolen either. It isn't a robbery gone wrong. This is actually, you hate to say, but targeted. It had to be. And we've got Connor Hanland, which we still don't know exactly when he left to go to the auto parts
Robberies
store.
don't typically end in a body found alone on the second floor of a house, set back behind a long wooded driveway, a house you'd have to already know how to find. Whoever was responsible for Brooke Hanland's death either knew exactly where she lived or was already inside. Connor told investigators he had left the house to get parts for his car. He returned, and he found her. He went to stay with his parents in Massachusetts for a period of time after the killing. He has since returned to New Jersey. Neither of those facts, on their own, proves anything. A man visiting his parents after his wife is murdered is not evidence of guilt. A defense attorney will tell you that plainly. If law enforcement had probable cause, they had 70+ days to ask a judge for a warrant. They didn't. That's not spin. That's the record. But here's the ticking clock moment, the one worth sitting with. If you are the one person who found the body, the one person who called for help, the one person who was in that house that day, how long can? No arrest. Protect you before the absence of charges starts to look less like innocence and no arrest starts to look like something else entirely. The county where Brooke Hanland lived does not have a history of stabbing homicides inside private homes. This is not a place where violence like this typically happens. And so investigators are left working within a very narrow set of possibilities, each one uncomfortable in its own way. A targeted attack, meaning someone knew Brooke specifically and wanted her dead. A domestic incident, meaning the person closest to her is also the person responsible. Or an unknown actor who somehow understood the layout of a rural property well enough to enter and exit without leaving forensic evidence behind. Brooke Hanland was a therapist. She worked with vulnerable people, some of them dealing with real instability, and her clinical records are protected even after her death.
Methodical. As I said earlier, we don't have law enforcement throwing facts out. So there's many things that we don't know. We're gleaning things from reporting, we're gleaning some things from social media, but we can't rule out as good detectives that this could have been a targeted attack towards her from someone that she had worked with. Keep in mind, she was a therapist. And in taking a look at who may have targeted her, talking about slow and methodical, the privilege of her clients did not die with her. They still have privilege. So the investigators, as they are going about their business, they can get some administrative records, like maybe some their information. They can get some client information. But if they are finding or hearing through their investigation that there is a client that had boundary issues with her, where she had talked to him, to get to her therapist's notes in those records, they have to go through a judge. They're going to have to present pretty relevant tight facts. And even with that, a special master is going to have to go through these records to see what law enforcement can gain access to. It's a prudent investigation for law enforcement, for these detectives to come through and not only investigate this husband, because we all know the statistics of that, but we also have to look at alternate suspects and rule those out. Otherwise,
Investigators cannot simply walk into her home office and pull client files. They need a judge's order and a legal process just to determine whether someone she once treated posed a risk to her. That process takes time. It is not obstruction. It is how the law is built to work. And it is also, unfortunately, one more reason the public record on this case has stayed nearly empty. No arrest. It has now been repeated by grieving family members, by online investigators, by legal analysts on national television. And each time it is said, it means something slightly different. To some, it means the police are being careful. To others, it means the police have nothing. The truth is probably somewhere between those two positions, in a place the public simply cannot see yet. What we do know is the 9/11 call lasted several minutes. In it, a man who says he is Brooke's husband performs chest compressions on his wife's body while a dispatcher counts along with him. He describes blood. He describes a wound he calls a laceration.
All right, the paramedics have been sent. Just stay on the line.
Yeah. What?
If there's a defibrillator available, send someone to get it now and tell me when you have it, sir.
No, I don't have one. I don't have
Not available? Okay.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what.
Okay, please put your phone on speaker so your hands are free to help her, sir.
It's on speaker. I did not move it. No, please,
Okay.
nobody say anything. No.
One moment.
No.
All right, listen carefully, and I'll tell you how to do chest compression, sir. Place the heel of your hand on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples.
There's a cut. That's where there's a cut.
I'm sorry, what was that, sir?
There's blood everywhere.
We're going to do this 600 times or until help can take over. Okay, count out loud so I can count with you, okay?
1,
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going, sir. You're doing great. We're going to do this 600 times or until help can take over, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Help is on the way, sir. Keep going.
I need you.
Try and take a deep breath, sir. 3, 4. 1, 3,
No,
4.
Brooke.
1,
no.
2,
I need
3,
you.
4. Where are you in the house?
Second floor.
Second floor? Okay.
Upstairs.
Okay.
He does
keep
not
going.
once stop performing CPR until paramedics arrive, whether that is the behavior of an innocent man in shock or a calculated performance for a recording he knew would eventually be scrutinized by millions of strangers online. That is not something forensic evidence can answer. That is something only Connor Hanlon knows. The unanswered question at the center of this case is the same one that's been asked in nearly every domestic homicide where the truth stays buried. If the person closest to the victim is not the one responsible, why does the investigation always seem to slow to a crawl the moment that possibility appears to be ruled out? And if he is responsible, what is the evidence that prosecutors are still waiting on before they're willing to act? Chester Township's police reports and the Morris County prosecutor's public statements on this case are part of the record. Search the filings connected to the Brooke Hanland investigation. Read what has and has not been released. Then ask yourself one question in the comments. If 70 days is not enough time to make an arrest, what exactly is law enforcement waiting to find? If this case raised more questions for you than it answered, like, share, and subscribe to Crime Nest Media. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Because the evidence is always there. The question is whether anyone is willing to follow it all the way to the end.